You know, I never thought it would happen to me. That's what we all say, right? My doctor had been warning me for years about my blood pressure. Margaret, you need to take this seriously, he'd say. But I'd smile, nod, and then go right back to my busy life, forgetting pills, eating whatever I wanted, and brushing off those headaches as just part of getting older. Until that Tuesday morning, when my grandson found me collapsed in the kitchen, my blood pressure reading at 210 over 125. A hypertensive crisis, they called it in the emergency room. I could have died right there on my kitchen floor. All because I thought I knew better than my doctor. That morning started like any other. I woke up with a slight headache, but that wasn't unusual for me. I'd been having them for months, maybe even a year. I took some over-the-counter pain medication and went about making breakfast for my grandson Tommy, who was staying with me that week while his parents were traveling. I remember feeling a bit dizzy as I reached for the pancake mix in the upper cabinet. The room started spinning, and there was this intense pressure in my head, like someone was squeezing my brain. My vision blurred, and the last thing I recall was Tommy's voice, calling Grandma before everything went black. When I came to, I was already in the ambulance. The paramedic was saying something about severely elevated BP and possible stroke. I couldn't believe what was happening. Me, in an ambulance. I've always been the caregiver, not the patient. At the hospital, the emergency room was a blur of activity. Doctors, nurses, machines beeping. The attending physician looked at me sternly and said, "Mrs. Johnson, you're experiencing what we call a hypertensive crisis. Your blood pressure is dangerously high, and it's putting you at immediate risk for stroke, heart attack, or kidney failure." That's when the gravity of the situation hit me. This wasn't just another doctor being overly cautious. This was real. This was life or death. You see, I'd been diagnosed with high blood pressure about 8 years ago. My doctor prescribed medication and suggested lifestyle changes, less salt, more exercise, stress management techniques. But I was stubborn. I'd take my medication sporadically, convincing myself that I didn't really need it every day. I feel fine, I'd tell myself. Why take pills when I don't feel sick? That thinking. That dangerous thinking nearly cost me everything. The cardiologist who saw me in the hospital explained that hypertension is often called the silent killer for a reason. You can have dangerously high blood pressure and feel relatively normal until something catastrophic happens. In my case, I had been experiencing symptoms, headaches, occasional dizziness, fatigue, but I'd attributed them to age or stress or a dozen other excuses. Your blood pressure didn't just spike suddenly, he explained. It's been climbing for months, maybe years, and your body has been trying to tell you. I spent 3 days in the hospital while they stabilized my condition. The doctors adjusted my medications, ran tests to check for organ damage, and monitored me constantly. Thank goodness, I hadn't suffered a stroke or heart attack, but my kidneys showed early signs of damage from the prolonged high blood pressure. During those 3 days, I had a lot of time to think about how I'd gotten here. I thought about my own mother, who died of a stroke at 72, probably related to untreated hypertension. I thought about my grandchildren and how I might not have been around to see them grow up. I thought about all the warnings I'd ignored and all the excuses I'd made. When my doctor came in on the 3rd day, I was ready to listen, Really listen this time. Margaret, he said, sitting down at the edge of my bed, hypertension isn't something you can negotiate with. It doesn't care about your busy schedule or your dislike of medications. It's a condition that requires consistent management every single day. He went on to explain that a hypertensive crisis like mine doesn't usually happen out of nowhere. It's the culmination of poorly controlled blood pressure over time. For me, my systolic pressure, that's the top number, had likely been hovering around 180 for months. My diastolic, the bottom number, probably hadn't dropped below 100 in quite some time. At those levels, damage was happening inside my body every day, even when I felt fine. My arteries were hardening, my heart was working overtime, and my kidneys were struggling to filter my blood properly. This isn't about taking a pill, my doctor said. This is about completely rethinking your relationship with your health. That hit me hard. I'd always prided myself on being independent, on taking care of others. But I hadn't been taking care of myself. Not really. When I was discharged from the hospital, I came home with a new medication regimen, a blood pressure monitor, and a follow-up. Appointments scheduled for the following week. But more importantly, I came home with a new perspective. The first few weeks were challenging. The medications made me feel tired, and I experienced some dizziness as my body adjusted to the lower blood pressure. But I stuck with it because I knew what the alternative could be. I started keeping a blood pressure journal, recording my readings twice a day along with notes about how I was feeling, what I'd eaten, and how well I'd slept. Patterns emerged. I noticed that my pressure was higher on mornings after I'd had a salty dinner the night before. I saw how stress from family conflicts would send my numbers climbing. Knowledge is power, they say, and that certainly proved true for me. The more I understood about my condition, the more control I felt I had over it. I also made the difficult decision to be honest with my family about what had happened. My daughter was upset, not just because I'd had a health crisis, but because I hadn't been taking my condition seriously. "Mom," she said, "you've always lectured us about taking care of ourselves, but you weren't following your own advice." She was right, of course. And seeing the worry in her eyes and in my grandson's face, well, that was motivation enough to change my ways. 3 months after my hypertensive crisis, I had a follow-up appointment with my cardiologist. My blood pressure readings had stabilized around 135/85, not perfect, but so much better than before. My kidney function had improved, and the headaches that I'd grown so accustomed to had all but disappeared. "You're doing great, Margaret," my doctor said with a smile. "This is what happens when you partner with your healthcare team instead of fighting against us." That phrase, "partner with your healthcare team," really resonated with me. For years, I'd viewed doctors' advice as optional, as suggestions rather than necessities. I'd pick and choose which recommendations to follow based on convenience rather than importance. Now I understand that managing hypertension, or any chronic condition, is truly a partnership. My doctor provides the medical expertise and guidance, but I'm the one who has to implement it day by day, hour by hour. It's been almost a year since my hypertensive crisis, and I can honestly say that my life has changed in ways I never expected. Yes, I take medication daily without fail. Yes, I monitor my blood pressure regularly. Yes, I've cut back on salt and increased my physical activity. But the biggest change has been in my mindset. I no longer see taking care of my health as a burden or an inconvenience. I see it as an act of love, love for myself and love for my family who wants me around for many more years. I've become something of a blood pressure evangelist among my friends. When I hear them making the same excuses I used to make, I share my story. You don't want to learn this lesson the hard way, I tell them. Trust me on that, some listen. Some don't. Just like I didn't listen for so many years. But all I can do is share what I've learned and hope it makes a difference for someone. One of the most important lessons I've learned through all of this is that hypertension doesn't have to control your life, but you do have to respect it. It's like living with a wild animal in your house. If you ignore it or provoke it, it will eventually attack. But if you learn to coexist with proper boundaries and precautions, you can live a full, normal life. My doctor explained that hypertension affects nearly half of all adults in the United States, but only about 1 in 4 have it under control. That statistic haunts me because I know how many people are walking around just like I was, a ticking time bomb of health problems waiting to explode. If you're one of those people, if you've been prescribed blood pressure medication but take it inconsistently, if you've been told to make lifestyle changes but haven't gotten around to it, if you've been ignoring symptoms hoping they'll go away, please hear me. Your body is trying to tell you something important. Listen to it before it has to scream at you like mine did. A hypertensive crisis is not something you want to experience. The fear in my grandson's eyes when he found me unconscious. The panic of being rushed to the hospital. The uncertainty of whether permanent damage had been done. These are memories that still haunt me, and they were completely preventable. Had I simply followed my doctor's advice from the beginning, taken my medication as prescribed, monitored my blood pressure regularly, made the recommended lifestyle changes, I likely would never have ended up in that emergency room. So here I am, a year wiser and healthier, sharing my story not for sympathy but as a warning. High blood pressure isn't just a number on a medical chart. It's a condition that can rob you of your independence, your health, and even your life if left unchecked. If you have hypertension, please take it seriously. Work with your doctor to find a treatment plan that works for you. Take your medications consistently. Monitor your blood pressure at home. Make those lifestyle changes, even when they're inconvenient. And if you experience symptoms like severe headaches, chest pain, shortness of breath, or vision problems, don't wait. Seek medical attention immediately. My doctor warned me, but I didn't listen. I'm hoping that by sharing my experience with a hypertensive crisis, you'll listen now before it's too late. Your future self and your family will thank you. Remember, taking care of your blood pressure isn't just about avoiding a crisis. It's about giving yourself the gift of a longer, healthier life. That's a gift we all deserve, but it's one we have to actively choose every single day. I'm Margaret Johnson, and this is my blood pressure story. What will yours be?